From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. LGBTQ Nation is reporting that Serenity Birdsong, a transgender student at Middle Tennessee State University, or MTSU, killed themselves last Monday inside the campus's James E. Walker Library. Birdsong was vice president of MTSU's student LGBTQ+ organization, MT Lambda. The school canceled classes and closed the library on Tuesday, but resumed normal operations on Wednesday. Additional details about Birdsong's suicide have neither been made publicly available nor reported by the media. Serenity was more than an officer to us. Many of us considered Serenity our friend, and her ability to light up a room, paired with her wholesome demeanor, made her welcome anywhere. But especially in Lambda, where we are burdened by the darkness of existing in a world so often cruel to us. And it is this darkness that snuffed out Serenity's light. MT Lambda wrote in a Tuesday afternoon Instagram post marking Birdsong's suicide. The group had planned on hosting a Halloween party on Wednesday, but instead hosted a discussion and grieving space for people in memory of Birdsong. Additionally, the Student Government Association held a vigil on Wednesday at 6 p.m. local time in front of the campus library. The MTSU campus publication has also highlighted the availability of counseling services for students. In election news, for LGBTQ+ people living in the purple state of Pennsylvania, anti-LGBTQ+ bias and discrimination add a layer of concern to the issues already facing most Americans. Like everywhere, voters are worried about issues like the economy that impact their daily lives. But LGBTQ+ Pennsylvanians have additional anxieties and obstacles to contend with. For one, bigotry is still legal in 70% of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is unique in the Northeast as the only state without a statewide non-discrimination law protecting LGBTQ+ people. Approximately one-third of the state's LGBTQ+ residents are protected by local ordinances. Other protections flow down from the federal administrative actions, a patchwork quilt of stopgap measures that sows confusion and uncertainty. Pennsylvania's General Assembly passed its only statewide LGBTQ+ affirming legislation in May 2024 when it banned conversion therapy for minors. It has yet to repeal the state's Defense of Marriage Act, which remains a dormant threat on Pennsylvania's books, especially in the wake of the dismantling of Roe v. Wade and the knowledge that same-sex marriage could be next on the conservative Supreme Court's chopping block. What's more, there are no statewide hate crimes protections in Pennsylvania and no laws about parentage or second parent adoption. Every right LGBTQ+ Pennsylvanians have come through the federal government, local governments, or court rulings. These are slippery, tenuous safety nets that are hard to understand and harder to navigate. Republicans control the Pennsylvania Senate, and the state House has a razor-thin Democratic majority, but that is all subject to change. Every single state House seat, along with a third of the Senate seats, is on the ballot on November 5th. That's Tuesday. Statewide offices facing tight races include the Attorney General, Auditor General, and State Treasurer. These races are critical to determining the future of Pennsylvania's LGBTQ+ residents. Polling places in Pennsylvania are open Tuesday from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you are already in line to vote at 8 p.m., you will be permitted to vote. And finally, Mother Jones is reporting that in early April, Trex Proffitt opened his mail-in primary ballot and saw that no Democrats were running for state Senate in Pennsylvania's 13th district. It made sense. The district, which covers the city of Lancaster and its surrounding suburbs, has been represented by Republicans for over a century. The incumbent, Scott Martin, is vocally anti-abortion and the sponsor of a bill banning instruction around gender identity and sexual orientation in elementary schools. Martin won a decisive 11-point victory against a well-funded challenger in 2020. The odds for Democrats have likely gotten slimmer after the district was redrawn in 2022 to include more rural areas. But Proffitt, a 56-year-old history teacher at a small Quaker school, still felt something could be done. He decided to run against Martin, winning a write-in campaign to become the Democratic nominee for state Senate. After a personal tragedy, Proffitt wanted to center LGBTQ rights in his campaign, even in a reliably Republican district. In 2019, Proffitt's son, George, who was transgender, died at the age of 20 from a drug overdose. George loved folk punk music and was active in the LGBTQ community locally. He had struggled for years with depression and suicidality, but he seemed to be doing better just before his death. In the years since, Proffitt has watched anti-transgender rhetoric become increasingly visible in his community as a national backlash towards trans people amplified and enabled sentiment that was already endemic to Lancaster, he said. As my colleague Kiera Butler has reported, Lancaster County is home to a burgeoning Christian nationalist movement. In his free time, Proffitt had been walking for long stretches around Lancaster as part of a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, a nonprofit that supports LGBTQ rights. Though he had raised a good chunk of money, he said it didn't feel like I had done enough. It was in the wake of the suicide of another trans young person in the area that he saw no one running against Martin. At the time, he told me, the death left him looking for something more to do in my life. Since then, he has campaigned fiercely on transgender rights, an unusual pitch against a conservative incumbent. But Proffitt hopes it will show Democrats they do not have to back away from talking points about people like his own son. To learn more about these stories, click on the links on the PEP Radio website page at paequality.com. To take PEP Radio with you wherever you go, be sure to download the Live 365 app, available in the Google Play Store and the App Store. That's today's news at this hour. Now back to more music on PEP Radio.